This episode, what we've learned this year. In this episode, the Handyman Pros are talking about some key things they've learned for this year. Welcome to the Handyman Pros radio show. Home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros radio show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition is entitled, What We've Learned This Year. To help me explain, I'm here with my ever-cheerful co-host and old buddy, John.
Yes, Larry.
Johnny, what have you learned this week, a.k.a. this year? What's going on? What's been going on?
Oh, man. We are really, I can't believe that the year is almost over. I mean, the older you get, the faster this is going, or what?
I don't want to comment on that.
Man, oh, man. I can't believe it. You know, we're going to be here in the middle of December. And, you know, kind of reflecting back here a little bit on what we learned this year. It's 2021. You know, we talked a lot about these things throughout the year. You know, it's in some form or fashion, and you know, we had a lot of great interviews and things like that. But you know, the things that I really took away from this past year that I was just, you know, kind of reflecting on a little bit is what, you know, just doing all these jobs, right? It was really one of the things that I found was I was getting more acquainted with the tools, the right tools for the right job. Okay? Because I did a lot of plumbing work this past year.
Yes, you did. You had a plumbing year.
Yeah, it was my plumbing year. You know, and I also did a lot of electrical work as well. But you know, the plumbing, I've never done. It's really strange. You know, every once in a while you get on these kicks, and I don't know where it comes from. It's just, I don't know, destiny or something. You just kind of,
it's because you know, stuff all breaks of a sudden,
everybody's asking you to put in faucets or fix, you know, a new sink or. You know, remove pipes and reroute stuff. And
I had that run of toilets a while back. I mean, I was doing a toilet every week, you know, or 2 a week sometimes. It was like, wow, okay, I get good at them too, by the way. Right, and you get really good at it. But you know, it's really some of the tools that I really didn't have for some of the jobs, and some of the tools I did have that I haven't used all that much. You know, to get the faucets off, to get sinks out, the pickle forks, you know, all those kind of things. It's just really was a weird thing. And, but, you know, by God, right? The right tool. The right tool matters.
For the job.
Yeah, it matters.
It matters
in so many ways. Yeah, in so many ways. Basically, because we always talk about saving time, money, and aggravation, it saves a lot of aggravation and a lot of time, which in effect saves a lot of money to have the right tool. And folks, specialty tools do matter. I get on a tear every once in a while, and I'm doing a job, and you look at these tools and you go, you know, I can get by without that tool, right? And for me, like one of the tools I bought was one of those rigid head plumbing tools, you know, that's got a whole series of different things. It's the forks on one end and blah, 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 blah. It's all that stuff. And I find now that I've had that, I find like, how did I get along without this? And you can get along without it. It just takes a lot longer, and it's more aggravating, right? Especially in tight areas. Plumbing is a great one. And there's a lot of electrical tools too that are really, really, really important to understand that they do a specific job. Probably my favorite one is the plug-in adapter, or it's not an adapter. It's you plug in one side of the outlet. It looks like a ground fault tester, but it's got a little radio transmitter in it, and it reads back to a handheld unit, and you go scan over the breakers, and it tells you which breaker it is. And that tool has saved me so much time and so much effort, because you're not just flipping breakers off in the box, right? You're actually flipping off the breaker in the box. And so you're not putting somebody's computer system in jeopardy or just disrupting their life, because every time you flip the breakers off, of course, you have to reset the clocks and all that stuff, right? So it just makes life so much easier. And as you know, John, when you're flipping breakers like that, you have to have some way to check. And I know you can plug a radio into an outlet and turn it way up, and that works, but this thing works better. You know, it works
Yeah,
better.
it works. It works great. It works great. And actually, I just used it at another job site to chase down. I mean, you can't, folks. You know, most people out there, you're probably thinking, every time I go to the circuit breaker box, I can't read anything that the electrician wrote in there. I can't figure it out.
Which brings up another specialty tool, a label maker, which I label
Right.
label them.
Right.
So
There's all
people can
kinds
read
of
them,
strategies on how to really label those things nicely, and most electricians just do it and then they get the heck out of there, or contractors. And then it's like, well, wait a minute, which one is the dishwasher? Which one's the this? What, what? I can't figure it out. So yeah, these it's just the right tool for a job. And I will tell you what's happened to me, okay, over the past year using the right tools. I have my confidence level of doing some of the jobs that I hadn't done a lot of, allowed me to actually reprice the way I did things. Okay. So sometimes, some of the jobs now I can just, say it's just a flat rate because I'm in and out. I got really good at it. I'm really quick at it. And I actually made more money doing it that way. And it actually helped, everything, the customer as well, because I didn't spend as much time there. I was in and out. And they're like, wow, you're done? New sink? That kind of thing.
Yep.
So, you really need to kind of take stock of your activity and really get the right tools for the right job. I'll tell you the other thing is, things like we talked about the pressure washer attachments and things like that. That turbo nozzle.
Yep, turbo nozzle. Yep.
And you're right, Larry. Well, once you try that thing, you're gonna be spending the money to buy one, $80, $100, whatever
it is.
It is a great tool.
Did we do a show on that? We never did a show on that turbo nozzle, have we?
I don't know. I don't know, but it is it's a great accessory. But the point is that it's the right tool for the job is just, for some of the jobs that I've been doing, especially the ones that I haven't done a lot of, the plumbing jobs, the electrical jobs, it just really lets you accomplish that job quickly and accurately.
Yep. It's 10-4 on that one. Codes, Johnny. Did we learn anything?
Yeah.
About
I
codes?
learned this through a lot of. I put this, kind of a bullet point on this is that that's another thing that I learned a lot last year was more code. I try to study up on codes, every week. Or take some time and I take some time every week to do a little education for myself in these topics. So
talk about a guy with nothing to do. I'm going to go read the electrical codes
exciting?
now. Woohoo! Yeah.
reading the trade regs, studying codes. But but it's kind of funny when I put this in there, because after I looked at this, all of the horrible installs that I've seen in plumbing throughout this last year. No P-traps under sinks.
No P-traps under sinks? Seriously?
Yep.
Wow.
I've seen all that corrugated piping stuff for P-traps. You know what I'm talking about? That flexible stuff?
That's not so bad, but still, keep going.
But I'm telling you, it's not maybe the code violation, but it's a don't use that stuff, folks, because it just gets filled with garbage. I've run across non-functional water shutoffs.
Ooh, ouch! That's a bad one.
Yeah. So guess what? Thankfully they weren't sweated on. They were, compression fittings. So I had to go buy new ones. Okay.
Wow.
But, I had to turn the water off to the house. Okay. But the reason is, it's those old type of, not the guillotine, the gate, the gate, those old gate valves.
Right.
And they leak.
Yep. Sure enough. So they get swapped out to ball valves, right, John?
And swapped out the ball valves.
Yep.
And it just makes a huge difference. but I see, non-functional, these things that aren't working. So, you try to turn it off. It's leaking everywhere. It won't shut the water off to the toilet, or it won't shut it off to the sink. And I can't tell you how many times that I've run across this.
I'm seeing a new show for a tips and tricks, and that's going into a maintenance checklist as well. Now, it's funny that you say that, John, because that's something that when I'm in a home and I'm working on anything, I always check that stuff without even thinking about it. But the point is, folks, we talk about water damage on the show like extensively. Check your water shutoffs. If they're not functioning properly, they need to be repaired, because if something breaks, you need to be able to turn water off. And it needs to work, not leak. It needs to work, period.
And that's the point, Larry, because I just did a sink about 2 weeks ago. And, it's like when you start to turn those old type of valves off on the bottom, and you're turning them like 6 times, and you're just hoping that thing is actually going to work anymore, because they're always in an open position for, 10, 15 years.
Right, exactly.
Right. And then you go and as soon as you touch them, boy, so I had one and it would not shut off.
Ugh.
And so it was like, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I got to turn the whole house water off to do this. And then I've got to run to the store to get a new
shut-off valve. Yeah. So time, money, aggravation, right?
Yep.
Time, money,
exactly.
Aggravation. And
exactly.
And this is a quick tip, because it just came up in my head, right? If it doesn't shut off, it's not the end of the world right now. Mm-mm. But now is your opportunity, if you find out that they don't work properly, that you can actually plan the repair. So, plan it for a time when it's convenient to have your water shut off, right? I mean, it seems simple, right? But it's not necessarily simple. And then if you ever had that emergency situation, if it doesn't close, it needs to be fixed, right? But you can plan it. So plan it at a time when you don't need the water. Not at 8 o'clock in the morning when you're in the middle of your showers for the whole family getting ready for school or whatever, right? Not the best time to go shutting the water off. But anyway, a little bit of planning. Anyway, sorry about that. Sorry. That's a really good one. That's a really good one.
That was one that I've run up against. So I actually, last time I went to the hardware store, that I actually bought an extra 1.5 inch to keep with me. just in case.
Yeah, I have them in packs. I have them in packs. I mean, I can do a quick slap together repair, if you want to call it that, where
yes, this is all on copper pipe. And right. I went out and bought an extra one because, the biggest pet peeve is to get up in the middle of a job and have to go to the store.
Terrible. Right? Terrible aggravation. Terrible.
Yeah. So that was the other thing.
But just to comment on codes, right? Codes are there for a reason, and some might be right, some might be wrong. We're not going to get into a long discussion about codes, but in general, codes are there to protect the homeowner. That's the goal of a code, is to protect the homeowner for both safety and property damage. And so codes we learn about codes largely because we need to. And whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them, is irrelevant. They're there for a reason, and that reason has to do mostly with safety and then secondarily with property protection. So
correct. And if you're ever going to sell your house or you're going to buy a house, you're going to have an inspector come through. And if certain things aren't to code and it can't be grandfathered in, that's a no-go. They're gonna flag it. And I'm surprised at a couple of things that I have worked on, especially this one sink that somebody installed as the homeowner in the basement did not have a P-trap.
That's and just I don't
gross. Know. I don't know how in the life of how this thing got past the inspector.
So, John, let's just describe what a P-trap really does, right? So a P-trap is that looks like a P, shaped like a P up under your sink,
yep,
right?
On its side.
On its side, it's shaped just like a P. And the function of that, and I'm not saying that everybody doesn't know this, but I just want people that don't know what a P-trap is when we refer to P-trap. The purpose of that P-trap is it holds a little bit of water in there, and that keeps the sewer gas from coming back up your sewer, aka septic system, either way, whichever you have, sewer or septic. It keeps the smell from coming back into your house. No P-trap, you're going to be thinking, the dog is passing gas every minute. It's going to smell, and it's going to smell
or
bad.
worse. That stuff can be flammable.
It can be. Yep.
So that is code in a lot of places. If you touch anything with a P-trap, that's code. If you put in a sink that requires one of these P-traps, that's code. That could be. You might even have to pull a permit.
Yeah, and
in some places. So you just kind of have to watch it, but they're there for a reason, and I just couldn't believe it. I'll tell you the other thing that I ran up against, Larry, is that some of the shoddiest electrical work I've ever seen seemed to we're talking about learning this past year that I have run across. It's just been unbelievable. To the point that I'm surprised that that some of these haven't started a fire.
Oh, you mean like the home that I came on that had the stove, 220 stove, and the dryer on a piece of 10 gauge wire on the same circuit? You mean like that?
Like that.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Talk about carrying amps in there. I replaced outdoor lamps that. Obviously exposed to the elements that didn't have, nuts on them, that were just twisted together and left. Wires.
Shocking.
Shocking. I see what you did there. It was like, so I've seen all kinds of this stuff this past year, and it never ceases to amaze me. So folks, when you're doing these things and you're looking at, if you're taking off a light switch or whatever, please look around and make sure that everything is secured properly. Do yourself a favor, and I know all you handymen out there, you do the right thing. But you just have to be really, really careful. Like I said, I'm surprised that fires haven't been started in the homes that I've seen. They start all the time, right? Because of these kind of things. But I just, from the homes that I've been in, I had to rewire a whole bunch of stuff. And when the homeowner saw it, they knew what they were looking at. Matter of fact, I didn't even have to point out. I was just, look at this, and they're like, "Holy mackerel!" Yeah. So that's another thing that I've learned last year is be careful. Look at everything you're doing when you're going through this electrical. Any of these jobs with electricity.
Any of these jobs in general. Any jobs. Code is there for a reason. It's even simple things like deck hangers on decks. So you're supposed to have a metal deck hanger, folks. The reason the deck hanger is there is so that if the deck does pull apart, you at least have a piece of metal holding the deck up there, and decks do pull apart. And so it's all there for a reason. Now, like, I'm going to disagree with one deck thing. So I've been putting posts into the concrete for years, and there's no way that little metal bracket is stronger than setting that post in the concrete. But code says put the metal bracket on, and I, you do it to the code, and so that's what you do. You put it in the metal bracket. But the reason that code actually got written, just to give you the backstory on it, was there was a very long production run of bad pressure treat that reacted with the concrete and it rotted away, and it caused a lot of deck collapses. So they decided to fix that, meaning in the code system. So they made it, safer by putting metal in there, and so you can see it. Anyway, that's it. And that P-trap, Johnny, that's an interesting thing about the P-trap, and I'd forgotten about that actually now that you said it. The sewer gas gets in, and in a confined space, particularly in a basement, that becomes an explosive situation. I'd forgotten about that, and that's why the P-trap is really there too. It's not just the smell; it's for the explosiveness of that particular gas. And so, didn't know that was you should know it's never mind. We'll just leave that one alone.
Yeah.
What other thing? I'm going to tell you what I learned this year, and you've touched on it, but it has to do with the familiarity. Familiarity with doing a job makes stuff faster and increases our confidence, particularly on certain jobs. Like we've talked about it. You've gotten really good at plumbing. I've gotten really good at toilets. Like I said, it's changed my pricing program, the whole deal. It's changed actually what I suggest for people, because now I, like on a toilet, I just just say rebuild the whole thing. Just you do yourself a favor. It's $4 of extra parts. Just rebuild the whole thing. Don't build part of it. And that's because I've gotten so familiar with it and seen so many of these toilets have multiple failures and multiple parts that why put yourself through it more than once? Do it right. Do it once. Do it right. Right. And we've seen that in all of the jobs that I've been doing. You get jigged up, you get working on a specific job, and you get really good at it. For example, I've gotten really good at LVP flooring lately because I've done 2 or 3 jobs in close proximity, so I don't forget there's no lag in the time of doing the jobs. And so it just, that familiarity just makes it faster, better, gives us less aggravation, quicker time, better product all the way around. For me, that's been a huge one this year. What about you?
For flooring?
Well, for anything, just that familiarity. You've already talked about plumbing.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you've gotten super familiar with?
I kind of touched on the plumbing and the electrical. My just going through wallboard, just getting better and better all the time. It's one of those things. I've got some wallboard work coming up right now, and I looked at it. And right now I'm just, I've got the attitude, hey, it's only wallboard.
It's only wallboard. That's right.
It took me a while to have that attitude. And by that, I mean, boy, that hole, how am I going to fix that? Well, you know what? Tough. I'm going to cut a big square out right here, and I'm going to replace the whole thing. It's only wallboard.
It's only wallboard.
Before a year or so ago, I'd be like, I just want to just kind of fix that one little thing, And I'm like, no, let's just really do it right because it's only wallboard. What's the difference if you have to replace a little piece or a big piece?
Very little time. Very little time.
Exactly. Very little time. And, for me to cut it back to, maybe hit the studs instead of, kind of scabbing it in with stuff,
yeah.
just go ahead and do it that way. And then, oh, by the way, I'm going to put a piece of wood behind it, let's say in a bathroom, so that you can screw all your stuff directly to it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Like toilet paper holders and towel racks and all that kind of stuff. If I was thinking when I had my house built here, I would have gone up here and just, put in big pieces of plywood and stuff behind the wall,
behind the walls, right? Yep. Little tips that we know now that we didn't know back in the day, right?
So I look at that now and I'm really good at it, and I'm just now imagining, well, this is only going to take me a couple hours to get this done.
Yeah. Versus and to that point, right? So one of those things that I fix a lot of drywall holes in is anchors for towel bars and things like that.
Correct.
And it's like, wow. I did a stair banister for some people. They had put their stair banister, I don't know who the contractor was. Wasn't into wood, it was just into the drywall. And of course they ripped it off. Like it was 2 steps going down in the garage, right? One was into a stud, the other one was just hanging out there. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. But to your point, it's only drywall. I cut out a big square, put a 2x4 in there, so now the stair the handrail is actually anchored into wood, and re-drywalled it. Bing, bada, bing, done right. Now it's safe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was just shocked. I was shocked.
It's kind of one of the things that you and I are both planners, and we like to think through these things, and. I look at a job sometime and I kind of spend a lot of time, certain jobs. I would spend a lot of time on picturing how I'm going to do this and what steps and that kind of stuff. Because, you don't want to do things out of sequence because then, you're getting it all screwed up. But since I did a lot of this stuff and I familiarized myself with some of these jobs, I just walk in and it's like, the Tasmanian devil, man. It's like, get out of my way, and I'm just one thing after another. I just get it done, which has been great.
John becomes a whirling dervish.
Yep.
Just so you know.
I'm just, it's really, yeah. Can you imagine that? I just, just get going and get it done.
Yeah.
I did a garbage disposal this year, and I replaced the whole garbage disposal within like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I just got, I was like, okay, I had everything cleaned out underneath the sink. Man, I was just boom, 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 in, out. I was done.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. Just like, wow, I'm getting good at this kind of stuff.
I actually bought the tool to hang the disposal up in there to make it easier, because that, back to our number one talking point this year, is about using the right tool. So I don't know if you're aware, but they actually make a tool that you mount over the top of the sink, and it'll pull it up, because those brackets are always kind of hard to get. They're heavy,
clumsy,
and they're clumsy. Yeah. So you pull this thing up, it holds it there for the second, binga bunga bunga, done, and it even speeds it up even more. So I'll show you that when I see you the next time. But anyway, I'll tell you the last thing that I really learned this year, and I know this. Everybody thinks this and they think they do it, but I want to send this out to all you younger people, both men and women. I learned this year I really need to protect my body, right? And when I say that, it's not that I'm handling things where I need, say, PPE or personal protection equipment necessarily. But my big thing this year has been a combination of knee pads, eye protection, shoes, clothes, and too much work. Right? And so I know that sounds funny, but I'm not as young and spry as I used to be. I will say I went and spent a lot of money on a pair of knee pads, and best money I've spent, because, oh, good God. And for all you younger guys out there, you don't think it's a big deal. Dude, when you turn, I don't know, about 50, you will wish you had worn good knee pads all of your life, because I put my knees down on the ground now with no knee pads on, and it's like somebody's driving daggers up in my knees. And I have good knees. This is not me having bad knees. I'll get there eventually, but this is just the pain of that. And then, eye protection, I started wearing glasses a few years ago, so I have my eye protection on all the time, but I can't tell you how many times I've scraped gunk off my glasses, right? Like you're going like, yeah, okay, so you need to wear eye protection. And then we did our show on shoes. I should have the date, but I don't. We both, you and I both wear protected toe shoes, and John, just the other day we were working on our special project, and you dropped a wagon handle on your toe, and you're like, and I heard it. Yeah. I mean, it went whack, and John's like, oh, I'm glad I had my.
It came down. It was a big metal thing, and it came down like a hammer, and it bounced off the. I looked down. I didn't. I was like waiting for the pain to reach my head.
Waiting for the pain.
And I was like, oh man, thank the Lord for these steel-toed. These work shoes I've got on, because that just saved me a very
painful day,
Yep.
And so that, and then simple. I mean, these are simple things, but they're more important than you think. So wearing the right clothes, right? And I say that we live in Georgia, as you all know, and here in Georgia, as we kind of laughed about it, it can be 30 in the morning and it can be 90 in the afternoon, and that's not an exaggeration. It can be 30 in the morning, and so you start off wearing long pants and long shirt and all that stuff, and by the afternoon you're dying, but we've learned to carry the right clothes with us, and as you all know too, both John and I grew up in the north where it's really, really cold, and it's the same thing, man, if you're working outside up north, make sure you have the right clothes on, because, man, I'll tell you. By the way, that show for our shoe show was July 12th. So, folks, if you want to listen to that, we talk about the various different kinds of steel toes and protective shoes that you can wear. But same thing with clothes. We've never done a show on clothes, but
yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100% on all of this, because one of the things is and to address the folks out there that are younger, even the older ones, I'll just add a couple of things. A lot of times you're running equipment that's really loud. Use ear protection, because that is something that's gonna is gonna creep up on you later on in life, where you're gonna start to really miss some frequencies. You're running all kinds of equipment. I used to wear ear protection every day, all day when I worked in the airlines. There's guys that didn't. And let me tell you that the whine of those turbines will drive you up the wall and just ruin your ears faster than anything that you can think of. And the other thing is, if you're working around just about anything making dust wear a respirator.
Yeah, it's the one place where wearing a mask is really super appropriate. And simple things, folks, for you homeowners and stuff, if you're out mixing, like, say, mixing concrete,
exactly.
Boy, wear a mask, because that dust is really bad. It's very, very bad for your lungs and stuff. And wear a mask. Drywall dust, same thing. Wear a mask. It's the one time that wearing an N95 mask is really, 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 really important. It's really important. Because you don't want that dust down in your lungs. You'll be if it's drywall, you're hacking up white stuff, and it's gross. And concrete in particular, it's very bad. It's silica and all that kind of stuff. So wear that stuff. And then the last thing I wrote it here is just too much work. And when I say too much work, it's twofold, right? So don't work too long a days, meaning, have a shut-off time on yourself, because you need time to recoup. You need time to do the personal things that you need to do. It's taken me years. I'm a workaholic, folks. I'm not going to lie. I'm a workaholic, and I'll work sun up to sundown. It's my whole life. That's what I've done. But I've started trying to take some time, set parameters around my day, meaning I don't start at sunset or sun break and end at sunset anymore. I'm trying to not shorten, but work in a relatively reasonable parameter. And then the other thing, and two, this is reflections of as you get older, be aware of your physical limitations. I did 80-pound bags of concrete the other day, and I'm going to tell you, my days of doing 80-pound bags of concrete are getting limited. I'm very very seriously.
Yeah, well, we did another job with some of that, and man.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
It's like, I used to be able to lift just about anything. It's like, am I getting weak, or this is awful?
Well,
but you're exactly right. And you know what? You need to shut down. And what I learned this past year, I did a lot of work the year before that. I was working real long days, and then I decided, this year I was like, well, wait a minute, why am I doing that? Because I need it also for my mental health.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
I need to get away. I need to get away from it for a while, and for me, it's always like, if I run into a problem, instead of stressing over it, where I'm thinking about it, I always seem to like the old sleep on it type of thing. And I wake up in the morning and I always have the answer for some reason, and I go right back at it, with the correct answer.
Oh, absolutely.
As weird as that seems, and so that really is one of the things where, I think you're exactly right, is just to shut down, have that time. And that's what I've done this past year, was just to shut down at a certain time, and then take the rest of the time, the day. I'm retired, okay, so I don't have to work that whole thing. But it's still, I like to have the remains of the day there, just the 4 o'clock to the 6 o'clock hour, whatever, just to kind of, decompress, if you will.
Yeah, decompress.
Yep. And just get my mind together. Plus, it gives me a time to also catch up on maybe some paperwork. That kind of thing too.
Yeah, the other things that you have to do in life. Even making a good meal takes time. And make a good meal. Enjoy your life, because enjoy your life. You can work all the time. Don't work all the time. Enjoy your life. It's a limited time. Is the only thing you can't get back, and the rest of it will happen. I mean, it just is what it is. It's just anyway. Those are some big takeaways for me from this year. That one in particular. I think, I don't want to say I'm getting old, but I'm starting to feel the sins of my youth. We'll put it that way. How's that sound?
Yeah. Well, your picture on the post office wall.
Well, that's a different sin, John.
Okay. All right, there you go.
That's just that's a different thing. So,
Larry, are you wrapping this up, or what are you doing here?
I was thinking maybe just maybe we were out in your backyard the other night and we were taking apart a spaceship. I wasn't sure. Were we doing that?
Do I work that late anymore?
No, because you just told me you quit. I was out there doing it alone in the dark. Can you believe it? Oh, man. Anyway.
Hence the P-trap. Never mind, let's go.
Nice. All right, folks. With that, if you enjoy the Handyman Pros Radio Show, please tell your friends and neighbors, send them the link so they can listen to all of this really bad jokes and bad insanity. And if you do have questions, comments, or concerns, please send us an email, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com or at handymanprosradioshow@gmail.com. And give us a message. Tell us whatever it is you'd like. We do have a Facebook group that's at Handyman Pros. We're getting really proactive on that one. We're getting lots of people signing up and lots of things going on. But anyway, with all of that, folks, we will see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.